We're talking today with Ray Zeeff of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and the interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Now, Mr. Zeeff, can you start us off by telling us where and when you were born?
I was born in 1916 and in Grand Rapids. Do I have to say the hospital too? Or
No.
No, okay.
Okay, Grand Rapids.
And let's see, and I grew up on a little street called Woodrow Avenue, and my dad was a trucker, and I used to ride in a truck with him, things like that.
Okay. Now, did he drive locally or did he go long?
Yeah, well, he had a gravel company.
Okay.
Yeah, and I used to ride with him, and sometimes if he had some deliveries nearby, I'd jump in the seat in the summertime, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how long did you stay in school?
Well, the first I stayed up till 10th grade, and then I went back again. And I got a job with a coal company called Webb Coal, and the guy told me that I'd be okay to work in the office there, dispatching and so on and so forth.
And how old were you when you did that?
It was 21.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So before that,
Well, before that, I joined the Guards again when I was 19 3/4 years old.
okay. Now, when did you join the Guard the first time?
First time, let's see, 1932 or 3, I said, when I was 16.
Yeah, I mean, we got you, yeah, so 1932.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, why did you join the Guards in 1932?
Well, my uncle was a captain, and I talked to him, could I get in? And he says, yeah, I think so. I said, well, you know, I'm not old enough. And he said, that's all right, I'll fix that up, you know. So they made my age 18.
All right. now, why did you want to join?
Well, I just liked the guys that were in there in the Army. I liked a lot of it.
Okay. Now, did you have a job at that time?
No, I was going to school.
You were still going to school?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, was your father able to keep his job in the 30s?
Oh, off and on. Yeah,
Okay.
it was kind of tough. Yeah, there was no gravel to be hauled because no building going on. And so we went to work on road jobs. And I went in the summertime, I'd go with one of the trucks and go north and fix on, you know, paved roads, as a matter of fact. So we just had to jump all over finding work, you know.
Okay. Now, the road work, was that stuff that the government was paying for?
Yeah, they were paying for it, sure. It's the state or the government, you
Right.
know, either one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you joined the Guard. Now, what was the Guard experience like when you joined it when you were 16?
Oh, they had the old Springfield rifles, and of course they had the 45 caliber sidearms. You know, that would be Colt 45.
Right.
Yeah, and we practiced with those. But the Colt they put it on a 22 frame with 22 bullets because we had a firing range in the basement there at the armory. But the rifle, then we had to go out to the range out on Coit Avenue.
Now, aside from learning to shoot, what else did they teach you?
Oh, radio. I had a good radio man. He was a Sergeant Haskins. And the way we do that, the guys that were interested in radio, we come to my house. And my mother would put a pad on the dining room table so he could sit all around there with the earphones on, with a beeper phone, and he'd send messages, and we'd have to write it down, you know. First of all, we had to learn the code, you know, and all that stuff. And finally, I just told, I told your son's mother, Andy's mother. I can still remember my code number for the radio. My station was Station LE for USA. That was da 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 da. So, and I was radio operator.
Okay.
They taught me how to do that. That was nice. Besides rifle and pistol shooting.
Okay. Now, did you also have to learn to march and?
Oh yeah, yeah, close order drill. march, well, up to Grayling, long distance, you know,
Okay.
whatever they call it. You know?
All right. So, and then did you have a couple weeks in the summer when you had to?
Yeah, 2 weeks up to the Grayling.
Okay,
Yeah.
up to Camp Grayling. All right.
Yeah, Camp Grayling. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what was the camp like?
Oh, it was beautiful. There's a lot of woods, so we could have our bivouacs there, you know, and all that stuff. Then they had a great big parade ground. Then they had what they call Regimental Hill, and that's where the general sat and his aides and stuff like that.
Okay.
And,
No. Yeah. And then, were you in a specific unit within the Guard at that point?
Oh yeah, Regimental Headquarters Company.
Well, regimental headquarters would be for the 126th
Yeah,
Regiment.
126th Infantry. Yeah.
Okay.
And let's see. And that was the company's name.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Headquarters company.
Yeah.
That's right.
Not A, B, or C
No.
or nothing like that.
No, because those were the line companies. Those were
Yeah.
the guys who had to shoot
Mhm.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to shoot people.
All right. Okay. Now, how
We had
long?
to shoot them too, but
Now-
we weren't in that too much where we had studied radio.
Now, how long did you stay in the Guard the first time?
First time was, let's see, 16 to 19. That would be 3 years.
Okay,
huh?
so 3 years. So
Yeah.
about until 1935 then.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. And then why did you leave the Guard?
Well, it was because my dad hired me, and I had to work on the roads, and I couldn't even finish high school right then and there. I had to go back there later on too.
All right. Now, how long then did you stay working with your father?
Oh, off and on for a good many years. I can't, because I had an older truck first, and then he bought me a brand new truck. Gosh sakes, quite a few years.
Okay.
And the biggest job we had after that was still Depression, 1936, building the General Motors plant out on 36th Street.
Okay. So the government was helping.
Well,
Build that,
whatever they did for General Motors, I don't really know.
Okay. But still, it's going on in that period of time. And so that's the General Motors plant that was down there on 32nd Street?
36.
36th Street, rather, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
just this side of Division. Well, I'd say west of Division Avenue. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, now, was business generally better in the late 1930s? Was he getting more work?
It was getting better, yeah. Mhm. It was getting better. When it slacked off a little bit, that's when I got a job in a coal office.
Yeah, that's right.
And I didn't like that at all.
So did you like being outside and working with the trucks better than
Oh,
the
yeah,
office?
I liked that, sure, yeah.
All right.
I liked it, but I don't know. I didn't like coal dust. Even the office, you know, with doors and windows and stuff. I don't know.
Still smelled like coal.
Yeah, it smelled like coal, and you taste the coal.
All right. Now, at a certain point, though, you rejoined the Guard again.
Yeah, I did.
When did you do that?
When I was almost 20,
Okay.
19 and 3/4 years old.
All right. So that's like in 1941 then?
Yeah.
No, not 41.
Yeah.
No, not 2020. That's no, it's like
1939.
37 or
39.
30.
Wait a minute. No, not 39.
about
Yeah,
30.
37.
37.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get it right. Yeah. So you weren't really gone from it all that long.
No,
You left for a while,
Yeah.
and then why did you go back?
Gee, I don't know. I went there for a visit, and all of them jumped around on me and said, "You're going to re-up? You're going to re-up? You're going to re-up?"
Now, did they pay you for being in the Guard?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What was your pay?
Private was $1. Private first class was $1.25, and corporal was $2.15, I think, and never got any higher than that.
So what rank were you at the time? Were you still above private or?
Yeah, no, they gave me a rank right away where I stopped at, which was private first class.
Okay. Now, did you go back into the same unit you were in before?
Yeah, the same one, Regimental Headquarters Company.
All right. Now,
2nd Division.
okay. And so you rejoined. So you're there kind of in the late 30s and 1939. That's when the war starts over there in Europe.
Yeah, in earnest,
Yeah. Now, were you paying attention to what was going on
Oh,
in the
you
world?
bet. Yeah. Well, I remember we were all assembled in the armory And the captain got us all lined up there, and he says, you know, men, we're at war. And I says, oh yeah, sure. He says, you are now taking orders from the President of the United States, not the Governor of Michigan. So you're a USA soldier.
So your guard unit then, that's when it was federalized.
Yeah,
So
federalized,
that's
yes.
like October 1940 when
Yeah.
that happens. Okay, yeah. So you knew there was something going on.
Oh yeah.
Now
sure.
before that, when it was just the Germans and Poland and stuff like
Yeah.
that, did you pay attention to that?
Yeah, very much so.
And how did you get your news in those days?
Newspaper, radio, that's about it.
All right. Okay. But then October 1940, when the country's not officially at war yet, you guys get called up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once they federalized you, what did they do with you?
Well, then we started some weekend trainings here, and then from there down to Camp Beauregard in Livingston.
Louisiana.
Stayed down in Louisiana
Okay.
there.
Now, how did they get you down to Camp Beauregard?
Train.
Okay. What do you remember about the train ride?
Nothing extra special, just a train, you know. Coach, and then you could take the seats and bend them out and lay down.
All right. Now, what was Camp Beauregard like when you got there?
Well, the camp itself was nice. You know, they had all there. They had the barracks there and everything like that. But where you had to go into the jungle part, that was rough. But anyway, the whole place was all mosquitoes. And we had mosquito netting. We laid on the grass or whatever it was where it was fighting, you know, sham battle. And then put the mosquito netting over you, but they'd bite through the mosquito netting. So we had to put some little sticks to hold it away from us. So you could hear them things buzzing, but you didn't get bit then.
Now, were you going, did all of the men from your guard unit go down then?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, were some of those guys older ones?
Older ones, some they had a discharge from they were World War I vets. Now, my uncle was a World War I vet, but he stayed in because he was 16 when he went to World War I, and then he went to World War II, and then he went to Korea. He was in 3 wars.
Wow. Okay, but he was an officer with some experience.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
so
yeah.
they would keep him, yeah.
Yeah, he was a second Louis for a good many years. Then he got to be captain, and that's when I went in.
Mm-hmm.
And then from captain, then he went to major, and so on, and lieutenant colonel, then colonel.
All right. Now, aside from the mosquitoes,
Yeah.
how was it different being down at Camp Beauregard than it was at Camp Grayling?
Well, Camp Grayling was nice weather there. Down there it was muggy, you know, just like a muggy day here. Only it seemed that every bug in the world was alive there.
All right. Now, were they bringing
Snakes.
in? Okay. Yeah. No, yeah. Were they bringing in new men while you were there?
Oh yeah, yeah. They brought in new men. Yeah, they brought them down there, and they weren't guardsmen. They were drafted. Here they come, you know.
Now, were a lot of them from Michigan too?
Oh, all of them from Michigan, around Grand Rapids, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I remember one guy. I can't think of his name. Most of them were Hollanders. They all got into the different companies on up to private. Corporal. They got to be corporal. A lot of them did.
All right.
But
So,
see, some of the older sergeants got discharged because they were too old. And one guy, that was Sarge Haskins, was a real nice guy on radio, but he wore glasses about that thick. And after they got a bunch of guys trained and everything, they discharged him.
okay.
Since you can't see nothing, so.
Right. Now, once they started having you training and on bivouacs and things like that, what did your duties consist of?
Well, naturally, you would get to be a KP, and that would be a kitchen police. But I only think I drove that twice, and I stayed most generally. Well, when I'd get in the mess line, they says, some bunch of guys were ahead of me, and I walked in and ahead of them, and one of the guys that puts out the food, he says, "How come you got the front end of the line now?" "On duty." "Okay," he says. He gave me stuff, you know, potatoes and stuff like that, and you took them all out to the barracks and ate it, and, you know, depending on the weather.
All right.
And but this guy, he talked with an accent. He was Lithuanian, and I got in line there a couple of times. And about the fourth time, I said, "On duty," and he says, "Duty, duty, you're always on duty." I said, "Not so loud."
Okay. Now, were you doing radio work?
Yeah, radio. Yeah. Oh, we set up radio stations out in the woods there, and among the mosquitoes and bugs and everything.
Okay. Now, what kind of radio equipment were you using, or like how big was it?
Hand cranked, whatchamacallit, for the power,
Mm-hmm.
and a big aerial on top of the, whatever you call that thing, antenna,
Mm-hmm.
and in your keyboard here, and it was not anything. You didn't talk. It was all code.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was code, and that's what you had to work with. Like, say, for instance, now I had a call for more artillery fire, and so I sent a message for more artillery fire to the artillery people, and they send the message back, "Can't do it. No, batteries are dead." What the heck is this anyway? See, they shoot over your head.
Mm-hmm.
See, you got troops that are out that way. Well, you're going after them, but it's they're getting more and more of them. You know, they brought in more and more in the sham battle. You know,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, get the artillery here. Send a shell into them."
Now, how long did you stay at Camp Beauregard?
Let's see, until I think I was there a year, a little over a year. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to get into the fall of 41.
Yeah, I was. Of course, I went from Beauregard to Livingston.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
When did you go to Livingston?
Shortly after I got through training at about half a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's earlier than that, so kind of like
Yeah.
the spring of 41.
Yeah.
You go to Camp Livingston. How was Livingston different from Beauregard?
Well, it was more civilized, I would say. Yeah. It was a nice camp. The showers were outdoors. But that's what you wanted, to take a good shower, you know, because you had all kinds of jungle dirt on you, you know, whatever it was. So the shower felt good.
Okay. Now, when you were staying at Camp Livingston, would you get a chance to go off the base and?
Oh yeah,
Go
you
in.
could. I didn't, but they could though. Yeah, because see, I was married, and a lot of those guys weren't married, so they went off to. Let's see, where did they go again?
The big town was Alexandria, I think.
Yeah, there was another one there.
There's another smaller one.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
remember what it was now, but they had a good time down there. They said, you know, you should go. I said, let's do.
So when did you get married?
I got married August 26, 1939.
Okay. All right. And did you have any kids yet when you were down there?
No,
Okay.
no children yet.
All right. Now, did your wife just stay up in Michigan then?
Yeah, she stayed up in Michigan.
Now, did she ever come down to visit you while you were training?
No.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to go back there? Did you get to go
Yeah,
home?
I had to leave for let's see, what was it, 7 days?
Mhm.
6, 7 days of leave. That was it though. That's because you were getting ready to get shipped out,
Mhm.
you know. So
All right.
they let you go, give you a chance to go home,
Okay.
and then come back, maybe never see it again.
Now, when you were at Livingston, did your unit go on any large maneuvers with the whole division? Or
Oh yeah, they did. But,
And what was that like?
oh, that was good. We took our radio. I carried that radio on my shoulder. Had straps across here and here. I carried it on my back, and then those stands was in a sack, like you had those hanging on the side of you, plus your 45, plus your knife. So,
Well, did you have anybody helping you?
I don't remember anybody helping.
Would somebody carry batteries for you?
Oh, batteries and stuff. Yeah, that would be from from a different part of the company that you
Mm-hmm.
call in to give you a hand there on that stuff. But
Okay.
as far as carrying and setting up,
Oh, that's just
no.
you.
Yeah, you do it.
Okay. Did you work with men who laid wire or that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
there was wire guys there. They had these carriages that had big spools on it. They'd pull through the woods there and lay the wires. But see, the radio was because sometimes they couldn't lay the wires where you were at.
Okay, so yours was wireless?
Yeah.
Because you had the cranks.
Crank, yeah,
right.
That's
okay.
right. You started on a radio. I forgot to tell you that. And the more they'd hit that key, the harder it turned, because they were using juice. And I said to one guy, I said, "Boy, you're using an awful lot of juice." What he was doing was taking that plug out of the radio and going to killing grasshoppers. It'd go bing, crazy nuts.
Right. Now, do you remember how you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, they announced it. Yeah, as to how terrible it was, but they didn't mention how many got killed or nothing like that. Later on.
Did things in the camp change after Pearl Harbor?
Not really. Not really.
So you didn't have any different duty or more training or?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Nothing at all. It didn't seem that way anyway,
All right. Now, how long did you stay with your unit?
Oh, till
Did you stay until the rest of them shipped out?
oh yeah. Then I was to go to camp.
Fort Lewis?
Yeah, Fort Lewis. Yeah.
Okay, in Washington.
Yeah, but I never went there though,
So why didn't you go?
because I got discharged
All right.
on account of my eye.
What was the problem with your eye?
My left eye is nearly blind.
But that hadn't kept you out before?
That I don't know, because it was the strangest thing. They it seems though Dr. Hoogerhide, who was the captain, gave me the examination, and I said, "Everything okay?" He says, "Okay." And I thought for sure that when I come to that left eye, that's it. Then he'd go to the guy that's doing the writing there, cross it off.
Mm-hmm.
He's not coming. But I got in.
Okay. Now, what was your reaction when you found out you were being discharged?
Ordinary. I'm going home. I'm going to work. Take off this monkey suit and go to work.
So you weren't disappointed that you weren't going to go with the rest of them?
No. No, I wasn't the least bit disappointed.
All right. Now, once they discharged you, were you still in some kind of reserve status, or did you do anything else for the military, or were you just done then?
Done. That's all I know. I used to get stuff in the mail that they called me brother and stuff like that, but never about joining up or anything.
Okay. Because I guess on the bio sheet that you had filled out here, it has you officially in service until 1944.
That's a possibility.
Okay. But
Yeah.
you would have been, but the division leaves in the spring of 42.
Yeah.
And then they head off to Australia and New Guinea.
Yeah.
And you don't go to Fort Lewis, you just go home.
Oh, that's
so
right.
Probably that's 42.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, once you do go back home, then what did you do at that point?
What did I do?
Yeah.
Drive a gravel truck.
Okay. You went back to work. Now, did you?
Then I went on a freight line then after that because I don't know. Dad says it's too seasonal. Gravel you lay off in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Interstate Motor Freight and went from Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, cross country.
Now, when did you start doing that?
Well, right after I got home.
Okay, so while the war is still going on.
Yeah, I think it was to a certain extent, yeah.
Okay.
Because I know the guys are slowly on coming home.
Okay. Now, what was that like at that time? You're trying. Now, did you have special rations of fuel you could use, or how did that work?
It was all rations, yeah, and you had a sticker to put on your windshield, whatever category you were in, you know, and that's so when you pulled into a station to get your gasoline, and you just showed them the sticker, or otherwise you had another card in your pocket.
So what was the farthest from home you had to drive?
Well, most generally it was, let's see, that would be to New York.
Mm-hmm.
So New York was about 1,000 miles. And then to Omaha, Nebraska, that was a little over 1,000 miles.
Right.
But that's as far as I went.
Okay. Now, what were the roads like in those days?
Some were all cracked up and everything, and some were patched up, and some that were built before the war were good, but there were only 2 lanes.
Mm-hmm. So how long would it take to drive from Michigan to Omaha or something like that?
Oh, from Grand Rapids?
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah. Let's see, I go from here to Chicago, and from here to, or from Chicago to Moline, Illinois. They had a terminal there too, so I had to check in. And then that would take my 10 hours. Then you had to quit driving for 8,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there to Omaha, which was another 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Now,
Okay.
Was there much traffic in those days?
Oh yeah, because the roads, you know, after the war, everybody had trucks and cars, you know,
Right.
and the roads were narrow, you know, instead of nice and wide, you know, where you could pass and stuff. No, they were just narrow jobbies. You had to be careful that you didn't hit an oncoming car or a truck.
All right. Now, after you got home and while the war was still going on, did you try to follow the news to keep track?
No, I didn't. No, I was so busy driving that I didn't pay much attention.
So you didn't try to find out what happened to your own unit?
Oh, I see some of them come home and talk to them. And a couple of them said to me, "Can you get me on Associated, or can you get me on Interstate?" I says, "I don't know." I said, "I'm just lucky I'm there myself." "Well, your dad can help."
Because a lot of them didn't have jobs when they got back.
Some of them did, some of them did.
Mm-hmm.
One guy was working at a gas station. I says, "Al, you gonna go back to your gas station?" "No, I don't pay enough," he says. You know, it was a Depression day job.
Mm-hmm.
And I says, "Well, maybe you could get a gas station and make all the money yourself." "No, I'm not going to do it." So he went to work for a dry ice company that, you know, delivered freezing ice, you know, that stuff where they keep stuff cold.
All right. Now, so somebody in your family had mentioned to us some incident when you got a bullet in your head during target practice.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain about what that was?
Well, it hit a pipe that was up in the range there. It wasn't a range, a legal range. You could go out Coit Avenue, you could do it. But there was a pipe there, you know, coming out of the ground like that. And for some unknown reason, I was on target, but did I turn my head or something like that? Bing! Hit that pipe and hit my head.
Well, was that while you were still in the Guard?
No, I was home.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were just taking target practice for fun, or?
Yeah, because I liked that Beretta. It was a nice gun.
Mm-hmm.
Italian.
Yeah.
22 was not big, you know. If it had been a 45, I think it could have knocked me from here to Kingdom Come.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but if it was a direct shot, it would have got right through my skull and got me. But boy, talk about blood. Oy, that blood come out of there, you know. All down the front of me like that. And the sky was all red, you know.
So
Scared the living daylights out of me.
Did you have people with you at that point?
Yeah, there's other guys practicing there, yeah.
So did you have to stay in the hospital for a while? Or?
No, no, not at all. Just to the doctor, and he says, well, we can't take it out. You have to leave it in there. It'll work its way out, he says. He says, 22, huh? I said, yeah, well, that'll work its way out.
And was he right?
Yeah, it worked its way out so I could feel it with a wash rag,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I told my daughter to take it out. She cut all the skin with the shears.
So how old was she then?
No, let's see. She was, gosh, I think 15 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brave girl.
Yeah. Oh, heck, she took our lawnmower all apart one time, and because I said I didn't want to start, you know. And she says, I'll get it going, Dad. And I said, you will? And she said, yeah. So she took it all apart and everything, and found out what the trouble was, I guess, and put it all back together. And I come home. She says, it's running. Yeah, that's a regular tomboy.
Okay. Now, did you stay in trucking the rest of your working career, or did you change jobs later?
No, I stayed in trucking, but I went into the, what do you call it, the dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
I became a dispatcher, and I also owned one of the trucks. So I tried that for a little while, to see what it would be to be home, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't like it, so I went right back in the seat again. Went down the road as fast as I could go.
So how long did you work as a truck driver?
32 years
Okay.
altogether.
All right. So were they starting to build interstate highways by the time you were done?
Oh yeah, they were starting to build them, yeah, but not a lot of them though.
Okay.
Like US 16 out of Grand Rapids, that was still winding, you know, and narrow and everything. It took a long time before they built. Then they built that expressway, you know, and that helped, so that people could drive better, you know.
All right. Now, if you think back about the time that you spent just in the Guard, and particularly down in training down in Louisiana, are there particular incidents or people or things that kind of stand out in your mind? What comes back to you when you think about that?
Especially some of the sergeants, which were really nice guys. And I said Sergeant Haskins, now he was a real nice guy. And he taught me a lot. And like I say, we used to have radio operations around the dining room table. My mother put the pads down, you know. We had the earphones on our ears, and they had what they call the buzzer phones. And then you had to write it down. And he'd walk around like that, looking to see how you're doing. Then he'd say to the operator, he says, send a series of L's to this guy. And so because he was mistaken L for something else, so they sent a bunch of L's through there. You know, that's the way he'd work it. And he was good. Yeah, I like some of the guys, real much so.
And then, did you stay friends with them later on?
Oh yeah, sure. I stayed friends with him. Yeah, Sarge Haskins would come over. His brother lived just a little ways from me there. Yeah, he was a nice guy.
Okay.
I don't think he was so nice in marital problems, though. He married the second time. The last time I see him, he was divorced from her.
All right. Now, what do you think you got out of your military experience? Did you benefit from it or learn things from it?
Oh yeah, lots. Teamwork and such, you know, and things that you wouldn't do otherwise, such as radio operation. You know, of course, in the early days, you know, that code meant a lot because that was your mode of talking, you know, to one another. So I learned a lot, but which they don't use nowadays.
Well, we're a lot fancier with that kind of thing.
Oh
now.
yeah. But even still, you can set up an outfit so you can get a generator to generate a little power. You can still send with a code, you know, if you have to.
As long as someone else can understand it on the other end.
On the other end, yeah.
All right. I think that pretty much takes care of what we were here for. So
Yeah.
I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
I'm sorry that I never seen combat, but
That's really all right. And you're still here to talk to us.
yeah,
All right.
I probably wouldn't have been
Thank you. There we go.
because I had a lot of guts, you know.